Project Tribute Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to aiding our nation's first responders. Our vision and mission is to enhance the life-saving capabilities of our first responders through raising awareness and funding for the life-saving work that they do. Our goal with the podcast is to be an educational avenue and a method for our heroes to express themselves. In the podcast, we will discuss various tough subjects. Some of the subjects may be uncomfortable or controversial. Our guests have the right to share their thoughts and ideas, and for our listeners to hear the unedited words of our guests. The Foundation's role is to showcase a diverse array of thoughts and opinions within the first responder community. If you hear something that you do not agree with, please consider reaching out to us at projecttributefoundation@gmail.com and join our podcast. If you're a first responder and you would like to share your story, we truly would love to hear from you and learn from your experiences. Please enjoy this week's show, and as always, like, comment, and share to help us grow. You can find more information at www.projecttribute.com. Thanks and have a great one.
Hello, this is James with Project Tribute Podcast, coming at you again with another segment episode. We have our special guest with us. You probably are familiar with him at this point, but it is
John Wayne.
All right, John. So on this segment, I really wanted to kind of dive into the mental health aspect. This is kind of a theme. Each series, we like to kind of discuss mental health with the person that we're talking to. You can be as vague or as open as you want to on these. But just kind of a diving into it, your job specifically, you deal with a lot of trauma, obviously, just from you're dealing with people in trauma, right?
Right.
So what are some calls that like are the most common that you deal with? I really think the public has an idea that every time they see an ambulance driving by, it's somebody that just got their arm or leg chopped off, in some kind of accident.
Well, we do a lot of just sick calls, people that are just sick, and
like cold and flu sick, or
yeah. Well, I mean, we do cold and flu sick. We do all kinds of sick, and people feel like they're too weak to drive, so they can't make it to the hospital or a doctor on their own. So we go and get them.
Okay, yeah.
Or for whatever reason, they feel like they can't make it to the hospital on their own.
Yeah.
And so we come and get them, we treat them to the best of our ability, and we transport them to the hospital. But we run a wide range of calls.
What are some of the more, without naming, any particular incident, what are some of the more serious ones for your local agency that you deal with that happen?
Probably car wrecks.
Yes.
Car wrecks on the highway.
Yeah, that's right. You guys respond to like serious accidents that happen out in the county as well, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So you see some pretty bad ones, though.
Yeah. We work the accidents that are the fender benders here in town that are at the at the stoplight and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
We work those, but we also cover a large portion of a major highway.
That's right. Yeah. I totally forgot about that.
We've had several instances where the best thing for the patient is to be life flighted.
Yeah.
And that's where we treat. As a ground ambulance, we treat and respond to that call, and the fastest way to get that person to a trauma center that they need is by air.
Yeah.
And so we'll have a helicopter come in. And
how do you go about like when do you call for the helicopter? Right. Obviously it travels very fast, but there's not a helicopter sitting in our municipality.
Right.
So when do you call for it? So it can be there when it's needed.
I will typically, if I'm going to request a helicopter, I'm going to ask for the helicopter when we get the page.
Okay.
When we get the call, based on what it sounds like.
Okay.
and what the mechanism of injury is.
Yeah.
If it is an automobile accident, if it sounds like it's bad,
Yeah.
then there's a lot of things that go into that. But location,
Yeah.
if we're on the northern end of our county,
Yeah.
and it's a bad motorcycle wreck,
Oh yeah.
well, for me to get to a trauma center in the
Mhm.
Tulsa metro area, then it may be faster for the helicopter than it is to me to come through all the towns
Yeah.
between
All the
here,
stoplights, stop
all the
signs,
stoplights,
traffic.
even running emergent.
Yeah, I mean, you still got to come to a stop, or at least very close to a stop at
Right,
intersection, stuff like
right.
that.
You
Yeah.
you have to drive with due regard
Yeah.
still,
You
and
can't just blow through stuff.
sometimes air ambulance is the way to go.
Yeah.
Um, so I make that decision based on what it sounds like, where it is, and then honestly, the tone of the person dispatching us.
Yeah.
You can hear the excitement in their voice.
For
Or I
sure.
don't want to say excitement. Excitement doesn't
Urgency, maybe.
Yes, the
Yeah.
urgency in their voice based on the calls that they're receiving.
Yeah.
So then it's like, okay, this sounds like it's going to be a bad
This is probably
accident.
something.
Let's go ahead and get the helicopter started. Now, we may not utilize them
Mhm.
once we get there and we make a proper assessment.
Yeah.
But you can always turn them around.
Absolutely. Rather than get there and say, "Oh shoot, we should have called for the
Yes,
helicopter."
right.
Yeah.
So
So we need them to come now, but now they're behind the gate, and
Mhm.
every second is very important to that person.
Right.
And do we have? Let's see. Is there somebody else that works fatality crashes as well, or do you guys still respond to those as well?
So we still respond to fatality crashes.
Yeah.
And that's gotta pronounce.
Yeah.
You got to go up there and you've got to say medically, because yes,
Oh, you guys do that.
yes,
Oh man.
and you go up there and as an officer or a county deputy, you can go up there and say, yeah, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
But then the medical professionals in EMS come up and they're like, okay, this is the time of death
Yeah.
per se.
That's tough, man.
So we see several of those,
Yeah.
a lot more than we should.
Mm-hmm.
But that is part of our job.
Yeah. That is, and you bring up a good point. Being like I said, I always like to go into the to talk about the mental health portion, at least one of these segments, because it's so important. Because the things that you see and that you deal with as a first responder can be very hard to deal with, right? Hard things to see. Seeing another human being in a fatality incident where they've died. In my case, like, my job as a cop, somebody that got stabbed, got murdered, somebody who got abused. There's a lot of different things you can see, and somebody in your case as an EMT, and being a rural firefighter as well. You can probably see people being burned, people being in horrible crashes, people in a very bad accident at home, like I don't know.
I mean, the list goes on.
Yeah,
I mean,
all kind of stuff.
On the rural fire side, going in there and that house being involved and going in and pulling somebody out, and
That's tough.
mitigate, whenever they're burned 90% of their body.
Yeah, that's tough.
Or on the EMS side, going and somebody's been in some sort of accident and they've lost limbs.
Yeah.
And, or
And you have to try and keep that person, like, because you hope they're still alive. You have to try and keep them calm and stuff to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
Right. While you're trying to, and you in your mind are thinking like, holy crap, but you can't let them see that. Right. Yeah.
Right. Because you're the one that's there to help.
Yeah. They're looking to you. So you want to keep your composure. With everything that you see, what are some things that you use to like decompress at the end of your day? You remind me of the schedule that you have.
So at my full-time job, I work 2 24-hour shifts.
Okay, so which means you have how many days off?
5.
Okay, so what kind of things do you do to try to decompress from the things that you may see at work?
I like to go out with friends. We go, uh, I go over to some friends' houses. We cook. We'll just all get together. We'll just sit around. We'll cook dinner and we'll eat.
Heck
And
yeah.
or on Friday night we'll all go out to a local restaurant and just
Yeah, awesome.
sit there and just hang out and visit. And
Are these all people that you work with?
yeah,
How so? There's the old tale of I don't know if it's a wives' tale, whatever the term would be, but first responders, you don't want to hang out outside of work with other first responders because you always end up talking about work. Do you find that that's something that happens, or
well, sometimes that's a good thing.
see? And that's what I was going to touch on. Yeah,
It
it can be a decompression tool almost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because so we may have a call that we ran,
Mm-hmm.
and then you analyze that call after it's over. When everything's all said
Yeah,
and done, you
absolutely.
replay it in your head.
Oh, for sure.
You think about what could I have done different,
Exactly.
or what could
Exactly.
I have done better? Should I have done this first? Should I have done this?
If I would have done X, Y, Z instead of B, C, D, would this person still be alive? Would they be in a better condition? Yeah.
But you've had time to think about it. You've had time to process it. Now
Mhm.
you talk about it with somebody that lives the same life you live.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can go to Joe Blow, that family member, somebody that is an accountant.
Yeah.
Well, you can't. I say you can't. I guess you could, but
You
they're not
can, but
gonna.
they don't understand.
They're not going to understand the situation
Yeah.
and the process
Because they can't. They don't work it.
Yeah,
right?
because they don't
So,
live it.
Yeah.
Whereas when me and my friends get together after on things like that, and we talk about it, I understand where he's coming from. He understands where I'm coming from.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
I find if you're having a hard time with it, the best thing to do is to talk to somebody.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like go to a psychiatrist.
Mhm.
It's some people that may be that I find works for me.
Yeah.
I have a set number of coworkers that I confide in.
Yeah, for sure.
And if I need to talk about something, I'm going to call somebody.
Oh yeah, you're gonna reach
I'm like,
out.
hey,
And that's the most important thing. You don't want to bottle that stuff up.
no,
Well, and it's funny you bring that up. I have one of the biggest issues for me is I'm married and I have kids, and trying to talk to my spouse about some of the stuff. Sometimes eh, I almost can get kind of frustrated, and it's not fair to her, but because she just doesn't understand.
right.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And then the other part of it too is that you don't want to burden her
Right.
with all this crap that you deal with at work,
Right.
that the average person, Joe Blow, can't deal with or can't stomach, or
Right.
oh, I can't imagine that,
Right.
stuff like that. And it's like, well, I live it obviously things that are hard to see doesn't happen every day on the job. I'm sure some places they do, but
Right.
we're fortunate enough to where, at least for me, things that really leave a mark on you don't happen every single day.
Right.
But when they do happen, it's difficult. Definitely talking about it, but talking about it to the right people.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
because I mean, and spouses are usually like, no, you can talk to me about this stuff. But it's like, but I don't want you to have to focus on this
Well,
stuff,
you don't want
right?
them to wear your burdens
Exactly. Yeah.
and see the demons that you see,
Yeah.
because that's not yes, they married you, but it's not a lifestyle that they chose
Exactly.
to live.
It's a hard balancing act, man.
Yes. Oh, I couldn't imagine.
And then like that's like kids too. I can tell you a time I told my kids about like a call that I'd been on or something
Yeah.
like that. I try to keep them out of it,
Right.
Um So it's a tough thing to balance. It really is, but it's important to get um, ways and means, whether it's talking to people or doing an extracurricular activity, things, ways to get your mind off of it and decompress. And
Right.
like you said, sometimes bringing the thing up and talking about it, like in your case with your coworkers, can be the decompression method that you need.
Mhm.
Um, especially if they were on scene on the same thing that you were.
Right.
So,
Well, and that person, they know your job,
absolutely.
so they know what needs to be done as well.
Hmm.
So they have an idea to if there's something that you're like, oh, well, they can help you remember to do that next time
Absolutely.
or whatever the case
Absolutely.
is.
And you're absolutely right. Game planning, um, talking about it, and it's all constructive stuff. It's like, hey, don't beat yourself up about it. Even if you would have done BCD instead of
Right.
XYZ, it probably would have been the same outcome.
Right.
But think about that next time, and maybe depending on the situation, you could try BCD.
Right.
Whatever that particular situation calls for. So you can also find constructive criticism in that
Exactly.
may actually say you get the same scenario and BCD might help a little bit more. Now you're thinking about it like, oh, okay, that's right. We had this conversation. I'm going to try this different method now,
Mhm.
and maybe it'll hopefully get me a separate result. But at the end of the day, we're still human beings, right?
Right.
So we can't save everybody. We're
Right.
not going to be perfect. So I think also trying to have a realistic expectation for ourselves is important as well. You know, uh, without really knowing a good term for it, we kind of have the hero complex where we want to do the job the best that
Right.
we can, right? And we want to save everybody, but it's hard to realize that that's just not possible all the time.
One of the things that I tell myself after an incident like that
Yeah.
is I did everything within the best of my ability to the best of my training.
Hmm.
So I know that I did everything I could and it wasn't enough.
Yep.
And there's nothing I can do to go back and change that.
Yeah.
So then I got to make myself better
Hmm. Absolutely.
and keep my mind right, or else I'm not doing justice for my next patient.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you're going to leave that call.
Hmm.
And within the hour, most likely, depending on the service you work for or what you do, you're going to be at another call
Yeah.
where you may have just told somebody that their family member has passed because of whatever reason on this call.
Hmm.
And the next call may be just something simple, a little kid that, got a splinter in their finger
Hmm.
and, it's
Calling the ambulance. Yeah.
yeah, and
Mhm.
mom's freaking out, and it's cute to a degree, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
you give them some advice, you help them out, and you go on. So you go from one extreme straight to the next.
Oh, yeah.
And if I know if I don't make my mind right, that I'm not going to provide the best care for that little kid or whatever the next call is, I'm not going to
Yeah.
do my best.
When do you find when you're on scene, do you try to are you one of the guys that I know different people have different uh like game modes or ready to go modes that they get into when they're on scene. Some are straight lace stone, maybe not stone cold, but they try to show as little emotion to appear as professional as possible and to show a sense of I'm here to help. I'm There's guys that are a little bit more um not necessarily emotional, but show a little bit more emotion, right? To maybe try to connect with that person on an emotional level. Is there a certain way that you try to go about it when you're on scene? Do you find one way works a little bit better than the other, or
You just got to read your person that
yeah,
you're dealing with and that you're talking to.
kind of what they need in that moment?
Right.
Yeah.
And because that's the thing, you go from, all right, there's nothing I can do to help this pig.
Yeah.
If you're freaking out because the bone's sticking out of the skin,
what do you
the
think he's going to
the
do?
kid's gonna freak out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you keep yourself calm, act like even if you just don't know what you're doing, or and you're inside, if you're brand new baby medic,
Yeah.
and you're inside freaking out, thinking, "How do I do this?" But if you act like you know what you're doing,
yeah, it can really calm him down too,
and keep him calm.
Yeah.
Now you can, think about, all right, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
All right, I do this, this, and this.
Yep. Boom, boom, boom. What are before we wrap it up? What are some points of advice, if any, that you could give somebody that's wanting to get into either your specific neck of the woods when it comes to first responder or being any kind of first responder? What are some tactics or things to expect to be able to deal with some of the trauma that a person would be seeing in this line of work?
I think somebody that is deciding to get into this should know that you're going to see people on their worst days.
Yeah.
And that as long as you know that you did everything that you could to the best that you could with the situation given, that there's no other way you could have changed the outcome.
Absolutely.
And that's how I get through it.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I would also add trying to learn how to not take stuff home.
Yes.
If you are in a point in your life where you are married or have kids or have a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, what have you, try not to, if you had a hard day, try to leave it at the door and not bring it home.
Check your emotions at the door.
Yeah.
Because your kids didn't see that. They didn't have to live that. Why should you come home and them have to relive it?
Absolutely.
Even they weren't there.
Yeah.
They're innocent. They're just excited daddy's home.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you hang them emotions outside on the door.
Yeah.
And then you go in and you almost got to flip a switch.
Yeah, you really do. Because you have you have to go into being dad mode, being boyfriend mode, girlfriend mode, husband mode, wife mode, whatever. You know.
Well, whatever your role is.
Yeah. That's a great point. Great segment. It's something that we as a first responder family need to discuss more.
Yeah, because and as a man, but most men, they won't talk about it.
No. And I was that way for a long time.
Yeah,
too.
and whenever I was young into this, I was that way. And finally, I had a guy come to me and he's like, "Look, like, I need you to meet me here at the fire station." And I'm like, "Okay." He's one of my officers.
Yeah.
And I met him there and he's like, "Look, we had a rough night.
Yeah.
Like, are you okay?" And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
Like, am I okay? Yeah, I'm
Of course
fine.
I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Puff
And
your
he's like,
chest
no,
out,
he's like, no, like, this is a real deal.
Yeah.
Because I was brand new. I didn't know what I was doing. I just got into it, was learning, and and he sat down with me and he talked to me, and I think as if you're a leader in your first response agency, that you should keep an eye out on your younger people, all your people, but your younger people, especially
the people that are new to it. Absolutely.
Yeah, and go to those people and talk to them, and as a captain of my fire department, I've reached out to younger people after things, and I'm like, "Hey, are you good? Like, you want to talk?
Yeah.
Debrief?
Yeah.
And just reach out and let them know that it's okay, because we all feel the same way.
Oh, for sure.
It's just I've learned to deal with it.
Yeah.
And how to mitigate it in my mind where I can sleep at night.
Yeah.
And help them get to that point where they can mitigate it and they can sleep at night.
Yeah. And hey, that's great leadership. That's a great attitude as a leader to have. Always kind of, you got to keep track of your people, you know. So that's awesome that they have a leader like you there. And anybody that's listening out there, take all that into consideration. Anybody, well, I want to say anybody can do the job. You just have to have the right mindset, really, and
Yeah.
you have to be humble, and you have to be realistic that not every day is going to be cool, right? Some days you're going to be like, man, it was a rough effing day,
Yeah.
right? Like, man, there's some tough stuff today. So just be realistic, be humble, and
Definitely.
all right. Well, with that, we're gonna go ahead and close this segment. This is James Wathen, sign off with Project Tribute Podcast, and we have our guest,
John Wayne.
All right, you guys take it easy.
This podcast is hosted by the Project Tribute Foundation. We are a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to aiding our first responders. Thank you for listening. For more information on our efforts, check us out at www.projecttribute.com. If you're a first responder that would like to share your story, contact us at projecttributefoundation@gmail.com. You can find us on various social media and podcast sites by searching the Project Tribute Foundation. 100% of donations are used to save lives, while our retail store pays for any of our operational costs. Thank you again, and please be sure to like us, follow us, and share our foundation with your friends. Thank you, and have a great day.